Greetings, friends. Welcome to a very special episode of the Nerdrotic Nooner. My name is Gary. I come from Nerdrotic. I'm here with Chris Gore from Film Threat, X-Ray Girl, and we have a very special guest, Mark. I'm going to say your last name right. Just this time, Millar. Welcome, Mark Millar. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on again, Gary.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with Mark Millar, who I've been calling Millar my entire life, and I will revert right back to it after this show. Done stuff like, remember a movie called Kingsman? There was a Secret Service comic that was based off of Secret Service Kingsman, Wolverine, Old Man Wolverine, Marvel Civil War. You know that movie? Comics better. Ultimate Fantastic Four, Kick-Ass, Wanted. Underrated movie. I still kind of like that movie. It's nothing like your comic book, but I like the movie. I do. Comics, comics better. And so many other things and things to come, including, and he just released Vatican City, which I've read the first issue of, and it's really good. And today he's going to announce a new book with John Romita Jr. John Romita Jr. And forgive me, I'm blanking his name. Producer from The Gentleman.
Ivan Atkinson.
Ivan Atkinson.
He produces all of our favorite shows and movies. You know, Mobland, The Gentleman, Man. He works with Guy Ritchie. He's Guy's producer. And I feel as if I'm, sitting in the company of royalty because it's all my favorite stuff. I love him. Yeah. And he's a cage fighter as well. He's like a really dangerous guy. Guy's a dangerous guy. And the two of them spar every morning, so he's like a jiu-jitsu expert, cage fighter. I mean, he looks like a Bond villain. He's fantastic.
That probably comes in handy being a producer in Hollywood.
Yeah. Nobody's going to mess with him.
Yeah, no one. And I could spend the entire episode talking about Mobland because it's great. But
you put me onto it. And you said you got to try it. And my wife and I, we're really fussy actually. Like we only watch something if it's 5 stars. We give it an episode and then we usually stop watching everything, and all these things. And but Mobland, we're binging it like crazy. I haven't been this into something since Game of Thrones. Amazing.
It's very Game of Thrones-like in its politics. Yeah. I know Pierce has gotten a lot of criticism from Irish people for his accent. I don't notice a thing. I don't care. I think he kills it. and he is Irish, right? So it's funny. But yeah, you've got a book out. That got it went on Kickstarter yesterday?
Kickstarter yesterday, yeah. I've never done Kickstarter before, and everybody was saying you should try Kickstarter, And John Romita Jr. and I, the last time we worked together, created anything new. We did Wolverine years ago at the start of my career. Then we did Kick-Ass years back. We got a couple of films, Pez Dispensers, all that stuff, And then we thought we'll team up again, we'll do something, and it seemed perfect. To do my first Kickstarter with the guy I had my biggest hit with, really, Kick-Ass. So, I'm loving it. John, he's amazing. I mean, he's 68 or something, and he draws like a 25-year-old.
He's 68?
68, 69 even, I got a Christmas present. See, when I was 8 years old, I got a Christmas present, a Spider-Man book, and Johnny had drawn the cover. And I'm old, So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up in the era when I was reading the Spider-Man books. It was John. It was like his first stuff, his first run. Yeah. That's God. Yeah, I'm old too.
So working with him, we launched the Kickstarter yesterday. The thing's called Psychic Sam, and like I say, we're doing the movie at the same time. So we have. Oh, there it is. There we go. Wow, look at that dough coming in. Yeah. But we're doing the movie with Ivan Atkinson, producer of Mobland, The Gentleman, all this stuff. So super exciting. We've been doing this since at the end of last year. So it's lovely being able to share it with everyone because we've been dying to talk about it.
Yeah, you've been teasing this for a while. You've got a lot of stuff to tease. This is the first of some stuff maybe that may or may not be coming out. But this looks great. Listen, Wolverine Enemy of the State is one of my favorite Wolverine stories ever.
Oh, thank you.
Ever.
Thank you.
I recommend it to people as often as I can. So seeing you and Kick-Ass, of course, and seeing you two guys get back together is great.
I love working with Johnny, and his Punisher run he did with Chuck Dixon. I'm guessing you read his Punisher War Journal.
Oh yeah.
And that was a big inspiration for me. Like Marvel kind of got leaned on by Disney and got rid of the Punisher a year or two back. And instead of being a guy who shot bad guys, he was a guy who, went after people who did cultural appropriation and things like that.
Yeah. So, very Marvel thing to do.
I thought, right, well, there's a gap in the market, and I mean, we're in that kind of weird Western world just now, but it's all falling apart. So it feels kind of like 1974. It feels like the time for Death Wish and The Punisher and all that. And I wanted to do one of those books, or like a guy with a gun who goes out and solves problems. It's very appealing in uncertain times. Yeah.
So what's the premise? You can put that back up, X-Ray Girl. We can get some visual aid.
It's such a simple idea, actually. It's a really, really simple idea. It's basically a blue-collar guy. I like those blue-collar John Carpenter type heroes, Truck driver, just a regular guy, gets these weird voices whispering in his ear saying to him, listen, there's going to be a murder tomorrow. Here's the guy who's going to do it. If you kill this guy, you can save a life. If you ignore this, an innocent person dies. And he's like, what? And he ignores it for the first couple, and he's like, seeing the bodies piling up. So it's this weird ethical issue. Like if somebody tells you a day ahead of time, somebody's going to be murdered tomorrow, do you kill a killer even though he hasn't done anything yet? So he can't call the police because he sounds like a lunatic. And eventually he sees a crime that's just so bad, he can't ignore it. That something's going to happen to a kid. And he gets a baseball bat and he heads round to this guy's house, and it goes crazy from there. It's nuts. That's how it begins.
I love it. I love the premise. So when's this due out?
Well, Johnny's actually 3/4 of the way through the first volume. So
nice.
I think the first one's about 56 pages or something. It's going to be 3 volumes in total, and Kickstarter started yesterday. Hopefully we'll get it out this summer. We're pretty good. Johnny's a beast. Johnny can draw like 20 pages in a week if he has to. Klaus Janson inking it, who is, I mean,
legend.
My God, legends. Again, I was 12 when I was reading Klaus Janson, so I'm kind of working with my heroes. This is like working with Clint Eastwood or something like that. This is guys I never anticipated sharing a credit with. Yeah.
Well, this is all surreal. You go into to writing comics, and now like a bunch of movies are being made about your stuff. And what I appreciate about you, Mark, is comics has always been your first love. We see so many people like drift off and go to Hollywood and go away, but comic books have always been your first love.
Well, you and I talk privately and everything as well, and I can't stop talking about comics. Like I'd say 90% of our chat is comic chat.
Yep.
And I didn't get into comics to get into Hollywood. I was lucky enough to get into Hollywood, but it was never a stepping stone. So even though I've been in Hollywood for a decade and a half, all I really care about is the comics.
It doesn't show, and that's great, by the way. I just wanted to point that out. We talk about comics and conspiracy theories, so like it's fun. It's fun going down that road.
Conspiracy theories, or as we call it now, the news.
The news.
Yeah.
The news. The truth. But this looks great. Well, I'm going to back it for sure.
Thank you.
We got so many of our friends. You're going to be on Will's show Thursday. You're going to be on Open Bar. I might even be joining you there. So tune into that, everybody.
We need to have at least one person who people can understand the accent, so we need you in there. I mean, Will and I together, impossible.
The interpreter. I probably didn't tell you a story. We're at a meetup, the meetup in London, and there's a kid who runs the Scottish Comic Con there, and he's trying to pitch it to me, and I can't understand an effing word he's saying. So I call over Will, and Will is literally interpreting. I mean, I caught like every 10th word. I'm like, I can't understand this. And I told him, I'm like, I can't understand a word you're saying. We're going to call Will over. So Will literally interpreted for me, and it was a great idea. I should come out there sometime. But he was a good kid. But like, yeah, some of that, sometimes it's rough. And I think I'm pretty good at getting through the English, the multiple dialects of your country now, because I've been such a fan, and I watch all your TV and read all your books. But I still pronounce your names wrong, especially if
I never told you what happened to me at DC Comics when I was in my 20s about my uncle dying. Did I tell you about this? This is crazy with my accent. Right? Back when I was in my 20s, I was doing some work at DC, and I'd been working with one editor quite regularly for a couple of years. And I called him up and I said, listen, my uncle's died. You won't be able to contact me for a couple of days. I said, I've got to help my aunt out with the funeral. And he burst out laughing and he said, that's awesome. And I was like, no, my uncle's died. And he says, that's really hilarious. Okay, I'll catch you later.
No.
Right. And then I phoned up another guy at work and I said, I've been talking to Joey, and like he was saying it's hilarious. My uncle's dead. What's he talking about? And he said, like, don't tell him I told you this, but he doesn't know what you're saying ever. And he's been faking it for 2 years.
That almost makes it endearing.
It's like talking to Gerald on Clarkson's farm. Yeah.
Hey, you watching season 4?
Yes.
Good, isn't it? It's great.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's
and you know that's my part-time life, part-time farmer as well. You know, so
yeah, you have a Millar's farm.
Millar's
You
farm.
shot me a couple of pictures. That looks fun. Now, is it part-time? Do you have people helping you, or is yeah?
I'm a gentleman farmer. I'll take the photographs for Instagram and things like that.
but I'm not shoveling any shit. Yeah.
Although I quite like getting up and feeding the animals. You do feel quite benevolent. I like doing that. I don't like the slaughter, but I like the feeding. You know.
Yeah. I wouldn't like that either. That's why I'm not going to do it at all.
Yeah, I'm really behind. I'm in season 1 where he's birthing the sheep, and they're so cute. And then they talk about how like the ones that are kind of barren, they have to take them away. I'm like, no, why?
Oh, wait till the end.
Oh,
I don't want to spoil it for you.
Babies.
No,
so
not that.
Oh.
The pigs in season 3, the piglets.
When he has a delicious meal at the end. So
I don't think about that.
They spend all the time like, oh, I really like this animal, and at the end it's like, it's delicious. It's so good. It is one of the most wholesome shows ever made, and I'm glad it's incredibly popular, and everybody I turn on to it likes it, and I just I ran into it because I'm a huge Top Gear Grand Tour fan, but dude, in a lot of ways it's just as good, especially as Grand Tour, and then it gets into the bureaucracy of your country over there, which is, I mean, ours is bad. But yeah. I watch Clarkson's Farm to go, okay, maybe we don't have it as bad. Makes me feel a lot better. But yeah, it's Jeremy's pretty based on a lot of stuff, and he's shining a spotlight on just how impossible it's going to be to grow food in your country.
Well, I think that's the plan.
Yeah,
I think that's the plan. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys have been aware of it, but there's a farm tax thing coming in over here. I don't know if they've talked about this much in the States. But farming's always been exempt from inheritance tax.
Yeah.
So whenever you pass it on to your children, and farmers tend to have children who are farmers, and that carries on for generations. The government's going to take a massive chunk of this, and basically what it means is big American agribusinesses are going to own all of Britain's farms and turn them into solar plants. So
because they're beautiful. I hate those things. Even here in Texas, it was 2 years ago. One, this is all for the environment and everything. One's on fire. it's so ridiculous. And then I don't know if you ever watched Landman. There's an episode where Billy Bob Thornton just breaks down like how much oil is used to build one of those and to put them up. It's stupid. They don't counteract each other at all.
I knew a farmer. Weirdly, I hang out with a lot of farmers now, right? And I've become really good friends with a lot of people. And one of the guys told me that he got into the windmill business, right? And he was making hardly any money as a farmer, but he signed a 25-year contract with the government to have windmills, And he's now driving like 4 Bentleys and all this, So he used to have a battered old Volvo, and now he's got like 4 Bentleys and he's got a butler and things like that, So so it's crazy. I mean, the government are just spending money on all the wrong things, destroying British farming.
Oh yeah, they're stealing all our money and making other people rich and themselves richer. Oh yes, taxation is theft, by the way, everybody. But no. So back to Psychic Sam, there's going to be a movie. Is that in pre-production? Where are we at with it right now?
Well, I took 12 weeks last year to write the thing. At the end of the year, I carved out 12 weeks. I was going to do a DC project or a Marvel project.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel said to me, Civil War was big and all these things that I did. They said, do you want to do another one of those? And I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. And then DC, I heard I was interested in doing Superman. So I basically carved out 12 weeks to do one of them. And then when it came to the crunch, see, when you've been your own boss, it's quite hard to go and work for the man again,
Mm-hmm.
I love these characters. Look at this is like a toy shop in here. I've got all this Marvel and DC stuff. I love it. But I sat down and Johnny Romita said, do you want to do something? I thought I'll use those 12 weeks for something outside of Millar World. So I created this new thing. And very quickly we sold it as a film as well because, a Guy Ritchie's producer had been talking to me about doing something. So, I mean, it's embarrassing how fast it's come together. So the script has been written at the moment. We've got our director who we're going to announce in probably about 3 or 4 weeks' time. And that director is meeting with our dream actor in June. So next month he's going to meet up with him. And it's coming together, really bizarrely fast. That's good. It's working out well.
I can't wait to hear about the actor. There's so many things I can't wait to hear about.
I'll drop you a private message.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I'll try not to blab it. No, I won't. I'm pretty terrible about that. Yeah. Oh God, don't bring that up. Well, I think good thing the Hulk thing is out there now, Chris.
That's
Spider-Man
true.
4. So the whole Mark, the Hulk is going to be in Spider-Man 4.
I'm kind of nervous about that though, because I love the idea of it being like John Buscema Hulk, angry, smashing cars and all that. But I don't want the Mark Ruffalo Hulk, talking about the environment and stuff like this. Like, it better not be that.
No, and that's a great description of it. The Mark Ruffalo Hulk. No, apparently it's going to be Savage Hulk, and I am completely for Mark. And I'm just speaking as myself, not for Mark. Mark Ruffalo not being in it, and they just do a CGI Hulk with some stuntman saying Hulk smash. I'm completely fine with that. But there's also going to be the Punisher's going to be in it too. So that hasn't been announced yet, but it'll be in it too.
It's funny though, because the Marvel brand is so in trouble though, isn't it, for the mainstream audience? I can't get my children even watching the trailers now. And bear in mind, right, I'm one of those tiger dads, who has their children reading 1950s DC comics. I've been pushing this stuff for a long time. My kids won't even watch the trailers for Marvel stuff now. They've moved on. They're watching Minecraft.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean, they had a generation and they lost it almost immediately, and it's in the that's what happens when you have 6 years, and now it's being openly admitted by everybody since Endgame. It's just been crap, and it's nice that everybody's there. Different degrees of crap, but mostly crap.
Can I blow your mind for something? I could blow your mind quickly.
Yeah,
I was in Disney last year with the children. First time I've ever taken them to Disneyland. We went to Florida, and I was talking to this family at the next table where we were having breakfast. And I was just making chat with the kids, and one boy was 11, and I said to him, "What's your favorite Marvel movie?" He said, "I've never seen one." He was 11, right? And I said, "You must be out of your mind, And he said, "No." He said, I was 5 the last time there was a big one, and I hadn't thought about it in those terms. I was 5, 2019. He says, and that was at the end of a 20-year storyline. He said, "Where was it going to start?" He said, "Marvel's kind of for my dad, really." And the dad was looking at me like, I failed, But it belongs to the dads now. The kids have moved on.
You're right. Even my kid, I mean, he's an adult now, which my youngest is an adult, which hurts. He's reading a ton of old, right now he's reading old pulp and Silver Age and Golden Age books. He's really into pulp stuff right now. And I feel like I'm steering him in the right direction, at least in that stuff, but he's no interest in the new stuff. And, I picked up comics every Wednesday, and even before there was Wednesday, every week since I was going to 7-Elevens when I was 5, and I stopped, 4 years ago now. A habit I had, a good one, a positive one that I loved for 40 some years, just stopped, and I haven't missed it at all. Yeah. There's nothing that, not even with the announcement yesterday of Deadpool and Batman, I'm just like, you know what? I'd rather read your stuff. I'd rather read some old stuff that I haven't read before. There's nothing enticing me, and that sucks. It totally sucks that we've gotten to this point. So the brand damage is across publishing and now the movies, and it's not surprising because they made the same mistakes in the movies that they made with the books. It's you don't have to be a genius to figure this out. We have some questions for you, Mark. Eddie Brock, 90434 599 says, Mark, what was it like working on Marvel Knight's Spider-Man by making Matt Gargan the new Venom? We need you writing Amazing Spider-Man so bad. Please consider it.
I think, you hit a point in your life where I think you would just find it hard to listen to people, if you're working in the Marvel universe, you have to take everybody else into account. Whereas the beautiful thing about independent comics is you just do your own thing. And in your 20s and your 30s, you're so much more pliable. You'll sit in meetings and agree with things you don't agree with and all that kind of stuff, But there's something happens about 40 where you want to do your own stuff. So I love that period in my life, but it belongs to my 30s. I think I just couldn't do it again. The project I wanted to do, I did want to do a crossover. Marvel offered me a crossover, and the one I wanted to do was Marvel Star Wars. I really wanted to do Marvel Star Wars, and I had a good idea for it. I didn't tell them what it was because I don't want them using it.
But just good idea.
Politically, it's very difficult to do because it's two different divisions within Disney, you know, so it's kind of tricky to pull off. And Marvel DC, weirdly, is easier. And that's the only thing that intrigues me. I do love the idea of seeing Han Solo and Tony Stark in one story as a special event, you know. That's the only thing that really interests me in Marvel, I think, now.
Yeah, well, we got a follow-up question, and you kind of just answered it. But this is from Eddie Brock again. What's up, Eddie Brock? Love you, man. Mark, what's this I hear about you doing a Fantastic Four Superman crossover? There's a Batman Deadpool crossover special already announced. I didn't hear that.
No, it's not true. What it was about a week ago, I was announcing the movie and the Kickstarter that we're doing, the Psychic Sam movie, Psychic Sam Kickstarter. And I was quite naughty, you know. I just said, listen, a big announcement next week. Marvel have asked me to do something. DC have asked me to do something. So people just began to speculate. And I put up a countdown on Instagram where I had a 5 with Superman symbol, a 4 with the Fantastic Four symbol, a 3 with Batman symbol.
That's fantastic.
And I took it down to number 1, which was just Stitch from Lilo and Stitch with number 1. And I was just messing with everyone, you know, but yes, it's not happening. I'm definitely not doing that.
No, yeah, I mean, you can't go back home again. Plus, like, as you said, there's no price you can put on being your own boss. Like, as you said, there's like, I have for a lot of my life, especially mostly at the comic store, Mark, I made a lot less money than I was making in my professional life. And I was super happy. I was like, this is great. You know, I wake up at the crack of noon, you know, if I want to, and I get to read comic books all day. It was fun.
I think a comics was the perfect job. When I was a kid, I remember telling my mom that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. You know, like, I never thought working in comics as a writer was possible, living in Scotland, you know. But I thought just, you know, the idea of being surrounded by merchandise and comic books, talking to other guys who were into that stuff, that was how and somebody paid you money to do that. It's a perfect job. You know?
It was brilliant. It set me up for this one too. But yeah, you're sitting around your own collection that you're selling. And that's the way I looked at it, is like, you know, don't get high on your own supply. I made that mistake a lot at the comic store. I still had a pretty solid collection at home, but I'd rotate it in. And when there's no customers, I'm just moving around my collection, going through comic books, reading comic books. So it was, or playing video games, which was bad. But City of Heroes, man, it's great. It was a great game. No, it's the best job. And, you know, in San Francisco, Mark, believe it or not, there was a lot of normal people who just wanted to, you know, like, I would have all different walks of life in there. I'll never forget the story. I had my late father-in-law and a good friend of mine who is a total leftist, late father-in-law, Vietnam vet, you know, helicopter pilot, freaking Republican. And they were getting along great in the comic store. They were talking about all this stuff. They were just getting along. We had the rule, you know, no politics, and you can't use the bathroom, but unless I know you. But yeah, it was great. And that's what I miss in fandom now. That's what I think really a lot of the corporatism has brought in the divisiveness. And it is the corporatism, which has allowed the activism to come in, which has allowed the attacks on fans and cuddling up to the access media. It's all like a bunch of corporations that have kind of fucked this up. And I don't know. I miss the days when we were in the niches, to be honest with you. And hopefully, you know, I think we're heading back that way anyway.
I can feel it already, and the attacks on fans and all that stuff. That really feels like it stopped about a year ago. You know, maybe more. You know, so I do feel civility coming back to comics. Because for me, the first time I walked into a comic convention, I remember looking. There was maybe about 500 people. It was one of those Scottish conventions, not huge. And I remember thinking, here's 500 people like me, you know, who's into the things I'm into, and I instantly became friends. And those guys, I was 13. I'm still pally with those guys. And the comic store owner, I live in a different country now. I fly back once a month. But the comic store owner who I met when I was 13, I don't go home without meeting him for a pint, because you've got such an amazing thing in common. I mean, if you're into comics, you're probably into all the same movies, same music, TV shows. My God, we've got so much more in common than we ever have that separates us. You know?
Yeah. Even now when I go to cons, Mark, and I'm sure you just mentioned, you see this too, is none of this bullshit happens at cons. Like once in a while, some vendor or other creator will cry that another creator is there. But as far as the fans walking the floor, I've walked Comic-Con, I've walked MegaCon, WonderCon. Chris, have you ever been confronted negatively at a con? You have? I never have.
Yeah. Just
did you deserve it though? You might have deserved it.
I probably did deserve it. No, but yeah, I gotta give Mark congrats that the campaign is already funded. I just backed it.
Oh, cool! Thank you.
So there you go. But I have a question. Do you ever talk to any of the people involved in the movies, or are you just hands off? Like I imagine, like with Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick Cage knows comics.
Yeah.
It would be great to have I just wonder if you've interacted with the movie people.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, because I set all this stuff up, so like, what Wanted was my first toe in those waters, and that was a long time ago. But then I realized, you get a set visit and you meet the cast and all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But then, as of Kick-Ass, I was there at script stage, casting stage, everything. So I'm a really active producer, really active. And I make sure with everything, so Ivan and I put this deal together, and we're growing out from the two of us for Psychic Sam. And that's the way I tend to work. Then, I mean, everything I've ever done that's been translated, I've made sure I'm in there. But Nick Cage was a special one because I knew he was a big comic fan. And I got him a little gift for the first day of shooting, and it was, do you remember those Marvel cards? I'm not sure what they were called in the States, but it was those 1976 kind of cards. I think they were Tops in America, and there was a different company in the UK, but it was those little cards you got in the mid-70s that were kind of like cards you could swap with your friends.
Yeah, trading cards. Yeah.
I got the Luke Cage one, and I got Stan Lee to sign it and wish him good luck. And I gave him that first day of shooting, and he kept it on him for the whole shoot, so like Nick's a mega fan, from back in the day, and like I instantly loved him, and he was a really gentle soul. That was the thing I didn't expect. He was like, because he plays all these wild and crazy parts and everything, but he was just a lovely man, and he was the first guy on set every day, total pro and everything, yeah, really like that. I'd say he's the most talented actor I've ever seen perform, because every take he did with Big Daddy was an entirely different way of looking at the scene. It was the weirdest thing. Like he would do 10 takes and every one different, every one brilliant. Impossible when you're editing to choose what to do, because he brought something to everyone. So talented.
Yeah. Did you see, Chris? You see the Babylon Bee post where they're launching a new streaming service, Cage Plus, and it just plays Cage. I would subscribe to that.
Yeah. I
would subscribe to that. But yeah, he's a legend. He's in Con Air, one of my favorite all-time movies. Okay. Watch that once a year. One of
my friends lived next door to him, weirdly. One of my friends was Cage's next door neighbor, and he had a very public house on a very famous street in England, and my friend lived right next door. And he said he used to stand and talk to fans outside his door just for hours, just standing chatting with them. And there was a tour bus went by because it was quite a famous street. And you'd hear Japanese or Chinese or whatever, on the tour bus, but then he would hear the words Nicolas Cage, and then he would give the tour bus a wave as it went past and everything. Everybody loved him.
Oh. I'm glad he's making, I guess he kind of retired, but he's coming back and he's playing John Madden, which is going to be great. I can't wait for that. What do you got there, Chris?
It's Cage Plus.
It's Cage Plus.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, hell yeah, take my money. Christian Bale playing Al Davis and Nicolas Cage playing John Madden is legendary. I absolutely can't wait for that.
Did I ever tell you I met Christian Bale on the Batman set? Did I ever tell you about this?
No.
This is so
Did he yell at you?
Well, really, this will freak you out. We were doing Wanted around the same time as The Dark Knight was getting made, and one of my friends was making The Dark Knight, so I nipped over to see how he was getting on. And I was standing with Christian Bale, and he was dressed as Bruce Wayne at the time, and we were standing at a kind of coffee stand while Aaron Eckhart was shooting a scene. And I was chatting with him for 15 minutes before I realized he's a character actor, and he was talking to me as Bruce Wayne. And our entire conversation wasn't Kristen Bell. And I said to him, what part of Wales is it you guys come from? And he said, oh, I'm not from Wales. I'm from about 20 miles outside of Gotham, you know? And I was like, and I realized it was like a Kaiser Soze moment. I realized our whole conversation had been fake.
Method, man, the method actor. He's legendary, though. I wanted to one of my favorite movies that flew under the radar because of streaming, not because of streaming, because of COVID, was The King's Man. I freaking love that movie so much. I
can't claim any credit. That honestly, I got paid for it.
Yeah, you got paid for it.
Yeah, but I can honestly, that was Matthew, and I can't remember the guy who wrote it, but he's a good writer, you know.
Well, they did a great job with it. I thought. I really hope we don't see the end of like The Kingsman is one of my favorite movies. It's one of my favorite comic book adaptations. But I thought The King's Man was such a sleeper. I was like, because I was just expecting to just watch this dumb movie that's a third one, and it's got a cast I like, and I freaking was blown away by it, man.
It's a nice movie, and I was almost like a viewer to it because it wasn't using any of my characters or anything like that.
No, just the world.
But he, the original plan Matthew had for that was a TV series, believe it or not. That was going to be the pilot of a TV show. And then it ended up sort of growing arms and legs and becoming a movie itself. But what a TV show that would have been, I think.
That would have been a great TV show.
Period spy show. And his idea was to bring it right up to date. You know, like The Crown with spies, where he was eventually going to have Cold War 1960s spies and everything. So set one in every era, every season.
That would have been, yeah. I can't. His name, Ralph Fiennes. Did I say that right? Yeah. That would have been awesome. A series with him. If he would have committed to it, that would have been great. That would have been awesome. Let's go. We got some more questions for you. Thumbs up 1981 for $4.99 says, hi, Mark. Been enjoying episodes of your Millar Time podcast. Especially love the Carrie Bates interview. Cheers.
Listen, for me, that was one of the greatest experiences of my life. Like, I can't tell you, I think up there with Stan Lee for me is Carrie Bates. And he might not be known to anyone under 50, you know, reading comics, but basically he was the man. He was writing Superman and The Flash when I was a kid. And he was the first writer I ever followed, you know, outside of Stan. I would pick up books just because Carrie did them. And he's a very interesting character. He's a kind of J.D. Salinger of comics. He disappeared into movies in the late 1980s, and there's only two photographs of him exist. There's more photographs of Steve Ditko than the Carrie Bates. So getting to talk to him, getting to track him down was absolutely amazing. I loved it. And he's for anyone who hasn't listened to it, go and check it out. There's two great anecdotes, like him watching the filming of Richard Donner's Superman is a great story outside the DC offices, and him meeting Roald Dahl back in the 1970s. And selling Moonraker when he was 19 years old on spec, selling a spec script for Moonraker to Kirby Broccoli. Listen to the podcast. It's awesome.
I love Moonraker.
Wow.
With all of its flaws. I love that movie.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Bill Huang on the Streamlabs side for $10 says, Mr. Miller, Superman Red Sun is one of my favorite Superman stories. I always found your movie trilogy pitch with Matthew Vaughn compelling. What do you and the panel think of Chris McQuarrie's recent comments about his pitch for a Cavill Superman movie? I don't know if you saw those.
I never saw this. No.
No, maybe you can find it, X-Rigo. He talks about it a little bit. I'm going to give you the broad strokes of what I remember. He speaks about there being kind of a 5-minute sequence where there's no dialogue, and that's how you're going to start the movie. That really just kind of tells you everything you need to know about Superman, done all in visuals, what he fears, his strengths. And it sounded really good. But your pitches sound really good too. And like we said, I want James Gunn's Superman to be awesome. I want an awesome Superman movie. That's all I want. I don't care about anything else for the rest of the year. But it's going to be the most dissected movie this year. Like even more than Fantastic Four. It's going to be Superman. Because oh, sorry, go on.
No, please finish.
Oh, because of the nature of DC fans. DC fans are a different breed than Marvel fans. They are way more passionate and they have factions and stuff. So that's just the way it is when you go get into DC. But yeah, I hope it's good. The marketing hasn't been great, but we'll see.
I might eat my words here, right? But I really believe in this film, right? I love James. I love pretty much everything he's done, But I think something interesting happened. Remember when James Gunn got cancelled a few years back?
Yep.
And Marvel, there was something happened that Marvel was the coolest thing in town, and then they fired James Gunn. And I think that was the beginning of the turning point. I don't think it was 2019. I think it was like, oh, this is too much. We're getting rid of this guy. And then DC suddenly picked up the cool baton when they were like, well, we'll hire this guy. And I think he went back and did Guardians 3 because he wanted to finish his story. But I think by that point, DC had the heat and the energy. Something shifted in the zeitgeist and it went over to DC, I think, at that point. So I'm really rooting for this. I'm rooting for what James is doing over there. It may work, it may not. But all I know is that if somebody gave me $200 million and said, what's your perfect Superman movie? This looks pretty damn close. It's Silver Age Superman. And I never thought I'd see a movie with Superman, robots, and crypto and, alternate dimensions, all the things I love. And here it is. Like, I only have to pay $15 to go and see this. And, it's my dream Superman movie. I can't wait. It's going to be brilliant. And even if it doesn't make $1 billion, I don't care. I know I'm going to love it.
There you go. I don't think it needs to make $1 billion, but it needs to make close. It needs to make close, considering the budget.
I haven't actually heard what this is. What's the budget on this?
The budget is somewhere above $300 million, and that's because I think it's 340. My good friend Ryan Kinnell has 2 videos on it already. What happened was the city of Cleveland had somebody put out a tax form, and it was made public, and it showed the budget, and that was up to the time. It wasn't done shooting at that time, but it's somewhere above $350 million, which is an insane amount of money.
Because I know everything I'm doing, I'm sort of looking at the under $100 million. I mean, Psychic Sam, we're looking at about 60 and everything,
that's a normal budget.
Yeah, it's like you can be a hero like Sinners. You spend 90 and you make 330 and you're a hero. It's like that's the model everyone should be following, because that was such an anomaly, that weird high roller period where people were putting 500 million in and making 2.5 billion back. That's rare. So I like this where something has a chance to fail and not everybody doesn't lose their jobs.
Yeah,
60 to 80 million sweet spot is where I'm happy.
Yeah, and we need more of those. It's become so top heavy, or it's either like super indie or just bloated. And what we've lost is those 60, 70 million, even $100 million considered a small budget now, Chris. That's crazy. Yeah. But because a lot of that stuff, honestly, is just been pushed to streaming. So all that the middle stuff has been pushed to streaming, and some of it's really good, some of it's crap. But
it's going to cost 80 million. Wanted was 70, Kick-Ass was 28.
What?
I mean, you can make
28 million.
Yeah, so it made 100 and then made more than that on DVD again, DVD and Blu-ray, So, I mean, to me, that's the model. Just like be sensible, don't go nuts.
That's an insanely low budget, and I love that movie so much. And it did well. And lost are the days where you can make up that money on DVDs and Blu-rays. Those days are gone now.
You know what I hate about that is I used to always give a DVD as a Christmas present to somebody, and now I can't do that. I used to love finding an obscure DVD and giving it to someone.
Yeah, we were talking about it yesterday on Real BBC, where it's like, with your at least your major hits on Netflix and Amazon, why aren't you putting out a collector's 4K Blu-ray? It's not going to, like, if you do a collector's one, it's not going to keep people from watching it on your streaming service. It's just going to be another revenue stream for you. So it kind of, and even wait a couple of years if you want to wait a couple of years, but like One Piece, or, they did it with Stranger Things, but like, any Netflix show that was pretty much a hit, wait a couple of years, sell the soundtrack and the DVD, and they don't do it. I don't know why.
It's free money. Lord of the Rings, last year I showed the children, they hadn't seen Lord of the Rings. So I showed them all 3 movies. And then I watched the audio commentaries and I watched the extras and all that. I love all that stuff. It's a shame we've kind of lost all that.
Yeah, I miss DVD extras like a lot.
Same.
Well, our friend Robert Meyer Burnett's worked on a lot of them, including the great, the Lord of the Rings special features on the Blu-ray and on the DVD are freaking legendary. They're so good. It's capturing lightning in a bottle 101.
And the extras, I mean, there were budgets to produce those Blu-rays and the DVDs with extras that were in the millions. It would fund a small indie movie. And you learn so much. The Lord of the Rings has one of the great extras where they talk about the color timing, how they colored and changed the colors, and it allowed Peter Jackson to shoot in all good and bad lighting situations and then have it all match. And what's great about that is those DVDs you learned as a filmmaker. People passed on knowledge. DVD commentaries are legendary from directors, and that's how people learned. And they did some dumb survey that found out people don't really watch the extras that much,
right?
Which I think is BS.
Yeah.
And so we're losing that. I mean, what we could learn today about how a Marvel movie is really, how the sausage is made of a Marvel movie. I'd love to know what that really is. And we're losing that. We don't know how these movies are made now. I just know that why it's so bad is because everything has gone so corporate. Everything has gone so corporate. And I think that's where the real rot is in the industry. But someone like yourself, keeping it, your direct connection to the audience and Kickstarter, and I'm sure that's going to blow up. 42 days to go, and you already passed your goal.
Yeah.
It's gone pretty well. I mean, I've nothing to measure it by. It's my first one, but I'm pleased it's met its goal. It's in 12 hours or something. That's crazy.
That's insane, and it'll do well, and we'll be shouting out a lot on every stream we can.
But Chris, to get back to your thing, like, I think this is going to make me sound ultra nerdy, right? I love shelving, right? I love shelving. I've got all my books, I've got all my comics, I've got all my DVDs, all my CDs. I love to see things lined up. I don't know if I'm on some spectrum or whatever, right? I love to see things lined up in order, and I hate that that's been taken away from me with movies. I like my DVD collection.
Yeah. You like owning a little a totem from it, a little piece of it, if it's something you love. And I'm the exact same way. And yeah, we're probably on a spectrum of some kind, and I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly okay. Hyper Gooch for $4.99 says, I am a huge fan of your comics, Mr. Miller. And that's all he says.
Oh, that's all I want to hear. That's great.
But yeah, it's great. Comics Dad for $5. Indies are the future. I love talking to indie comic creators and learning about their projects. Keep walking the path, Mr. Miller. You are a legend.
Oh, thank you.
Cheers, Comics Dad. Cheers. Josh Kelsey. Oh, no. I thought this was Josh Kelsey.
Oh, my God.
I thought it was Josh Kelsey. It's John Keeley. I'm sorry, for £5 British pounds. Proper money. Mark with the AKA Books and Comics Scottish comic book store callback.
That's the store I was telling you about when I was 13. I walked into the 13, and it was like, the movies like Clerks and everything. It's just a bunch of guys talking about stuff they're interested in behind a counter, and customers were almost an inconvenience, I think, in the shop, because it interrupted the 8-hour conversation you would have on a Saturday, great times, AKA some of the best times of my life. I loved it.
Yeah, that's an art form you have to learn, where you're carrying on two conversations with a customer. Another one walks in, you say hello, you keep those conversations going, but you learn over time. And we had to I had to put couches and chairs in, and then I eventually put a video system so they could watch TV if they, between conversations. And then we had little snacks, and and coffee. It turned it, and I'd have customers regularly stay all day. And then they'd help me. They'd help me with customers, and it was great. I loved it.
Well, AKA was about the size of a bedroom. I'd say a typical size bedroom. Millions of comics squeezed into it. It was like Doctor Who's TARDIS, an impossible amount of things in this small space. But from that shop, a scene grew, and I went there. Grant Morrison went there. Frank Quitely went there. All these guys who had careers in comics, and the guy who ran the store cultivated all of our careers. He used to do photocopying for us when we were sending submissions in and everything. It was a beautiful little hub. We always say that was our Oxford University. That was kind of where we learned our craft.
Excellent. Yeah. Hey, Mexi Rage for $5. Sup, y'all? Hope today's going well. I have two questions. One, has Mark watched Mobland? And two, have we ever seen Nick and Jim Carrey act together?
Well, weirdly enough, the reason Jim Carrey's in Kick-Ass 2 is because of Nick Cage. Because, they're best friends in real life.
No, I didn't know they were best buds.
Yeah. Like Nick Cage said his two best friends in the acting world, he said to me, was Jim Carrey and Val Kilmer. He loved Val Kilmer as well.
All right.
And he said the three of them, like he said he'd such respect for them, And what's his face? Jim Carrey went on Conan O'Brien dressed as Kick-Ass when the first movie came out. And Matthew phoned him up and said, like, Nick Cage said, you want to be in the sequel? And that's how it happened.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Like, I don't think they've ever done a movie together. I don't think.
Which is kind of so either.
Yeah, because Chris Hemsworth is best friends in real life with Chris Pratt. So they love the idea of hanging out and doing movies together. It's funny that they didn't use their power to do one picture together.
There's still time. Maybe they could do some action flick together.
Yeah.
On Netflix. There you go. Scott Christy Jones for £2 proper money. As backer 15, what role do I have in the film?
Stunt double for the nude scenes. Stunt double.
Yes.
It's full frontal.
Full frontal. Yeah. And then you die horribly. Doug for $5. Mark, what's your favorite Punisher comic book run?
Oh, without question, Chuck Dixon. Well, I was saying that actually I do love Garth Ennis and Goran Parlov as well. I think my most sentimentally brilliant run, though, is John Romita and Chuck Dixon. That 6-issue run they did, the Punisher War Journal stuff, was amazing. I mean, I've ripped that off so many times, just little moments. The thing where he's pretending to blowtorch a guy who can't see what's happening and he's using an ice cream on him, just stuff like that. Chuck Dixon's a genius. I think Chuck's great.
Yes, he is. And Welcome Back, Frank is good too. That's such a good one. That's such a good one.
I think Garth is the greatest writer in modern comics. I would say, when I say modern, I mean the last 30 years, like my generation of guys. I adore Garth's stuff, and he's such a great guy. Like, I've never gone on a night out with Garth where I've not ended up like blind drunk, like that's a drunk that you're blacking out and all that kind of stuff. Like Garth's like deadly to hang out with, but tremendous company.
Kind of a real life badass. I met him once. And it was before he was in San Francisco, and we went and had some food, and it was right before he was going to go check out some great whites in a cage. So he was going to, he was going to go right outside the bay, and they drop a cage down, and you get to check out great whites. I'm like, that's not something I need to do in my spare time, like ever.
Somebody bought that for one of my children. My middle kid at the time, she was only 6. And one of my neighbors bought her a great white shark experience where she could go down in a cage and see a great white shark in real life. And I was like, that's like a super villain's origin story.
Yeah, it is. Ian Carroll's for $9.99. I'm looking to write my own classic pulp style sci-fi. Rocky Jones, Buck Rogers, etc. Are there any pulp sci-fi stories you recommend?
In terms of writing or movies or what? Because I love the old serials are amazing, and the Buster Crabbe stuff and everything. I'm actually watching a lot of Buster Crabbe interviews just now. That's how I'm wasting my time at the moment, But like, I'm obsessed with all that. And the late John Cassidy, who was one of my great friends, who was an amazing comic book artist, drew Planetary. He had the best collection of pulp sci-fi I've ever seen in my life. He had like the costumes from Flash Gordon. He had Captain America's 1940s costume. I mean, all the royalties he made from doing Planetary, he spent on this stuff. So he's the only other guy I've met who is as into it as I am, but he was even more so.
Planetary was great, by the way.
Great.
I guess Nick Cage and Jim Carrey were in Peggy Sue Got Married, a movie I haven't thought about in years.
I forgot that even existed, but there you go.
I did too. Thanks, James Wallace.
Thanks, James Wallace. Hey, the chat always knows.
Yes, they do.
The chat always knows.
One of my friends rented that from the video store thinking it was a porno. I don't know. It was back in the day, pre-internet porn, and one of my friends was like, this looks amazing, and I don't know, I never found out part 2 of that story, but I'm sure he was disappointed.
Yeah, the kids don't know how hard we had it back then. We had to like walk into a store to buy porno in front of everybody, God and everybody. And it showed your commitment.
The boys in my class, we went to Blockbuster when I was about 14, and we all went 10 pence each. It was £1.50 to get a video out, and everybody was trying to get a porno. and we were all, we looked way too young to be anywhere near it. And I remember saying, I'll do it, I'll run in. And I got it, put down the £1.50, and I came out with Rocky Horror Picture Show thinking it was a porno. And
well, that's the movie I've seen the most over every movie. Really? Yeah, because I was part of the cast. So I did it for years. Back in my high school days, they played out the whole movie at a theater at the La Paloma in Encinitas, California. So my wife was part of it. She played Columbia. So it's
how you guys met?
Yes, that's how we met. That's how we met. We have, this one's sad. Subhuman84 for $10. It's good that you brought this up, buddy. With the passing of Peter David, R.I.P., what is your favorite run by him? Do you have a favorite Peter David run? I have a couple.
Well, his Hulk run, I missed at the time, but read it later. I mean, it's amazing. It's absolutely brilliant. And it's, everybody, if you're lucky enough in your career, you've got one run that everybody talks about. And I think for Peter David, it was the Hulk, I never read the one he did with George Perez, but I'm going to track it down now. I somehow didn't know it existed. And it was the Future Imperfect one, the one with the old man Hulk.
Yeah.
But it looked amazing. I looked it up online. I'm going to track it down. People say to me, that's astonishing. It's really good.
It's amazing. He did Hulk the End, Future Imperfect, a great Supergirl run, Aquaman run. He wrote a bunch of Star Trek novels. He did great novelizations of movies, including Spider-Man. And yeah, freaking legend. And a nice guy. I've only met him a couple times at cons, but really nice guy. And one of the greats. If you haven't gone back, his Aquaman is, if you think somebody can't do something with Aquaman, read Peter David's run. It's legendary.
It's a shame. I mean, we've lost a lot of good comic guys, actually. That's one of the reasons I started my podcast a couple of years ago, because there was just a whole bunch of guys I really liked died. Like Carlos Pacheco had died around at that time, George Perez and everything. And I was like, these guys are going too soon, I just wanted, it sounds silly, but I really wanted one place that was a kind of record with them. I wasn't looking for hits or anything like that. I was actually just wanting to spend 2 hours in their company and get to know them as people and have it there for people in the future. So, you're never going to go above like 5,000 views or something with something as niche as what I was doing, but I wanted it there as a record,
Yeah, yes. And so many of them, I mean, not everyone, but I think it would be prudent to bring up, Peter David. I think he had a stroke a while back and he was having a lot of health problems, and he wasn't getting any financial support from, there was nothing, this is a guy who's created a bunch of great stories that have been adapted and made billions of dollars and millions of dollars for the publishing, and some of the stuff, billions of dollars into the films, like, him and Len Wein and others who died almost broke. A co-creator of Wolverine dying almost broke is it's ridiculous. It's unfathomable, but it happens. I know there's the Heroes Initiative out there, which is great. I've worked with them in the past, but
we shouldn't have to rely on that, though. Comic creators shouldn't have to rely on charity. I mean, it's amazing it's there, but the companies should be taking care of people more than they are. I mean, I've always went 50-50 with all my guys. If one of my things makes $10, we get 5 each. That's the way we've always worked when I was doing creator-owned comics. And I just think it's disgusting. I mean, I was talking to Rob Liefeld the other day. Rob's my guest on the podcast this weekend. We recorded it a couple of days back. And they kept he and his family out of the Deadpool premiere, for Deadpool. And he's, I mean, the money he's generated for Marvel, there's been nobody since Stan and Jack that's created a character that's had that level of fame, on T-shirts and, air fresheners and everything. You see Deadpool's face on everything. And the idea that they couldn't even have the consideration, the courtesy to open the door and it's embarrassing for him to be standing there with his family and not allowed into a party. So yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah, and that's the corporatism. And even if they wanted to help, and I've heard the excuses, well, we can't help everybody. It's like, well, nobody's asking you to help everybody, but like maybe throw a bone to the co-creator of Wolverine. I like that. Like maybe maybe make an exception and let Rob's family in instead of kicking him to the curb at a party. I mean, it's just a party, but like, come on, guys.
I think that shows the level of respect.
Yeah.
Because it's not about money. I think it's also about respect as well. Although money's important.
It is. Hey, you do a pretty cool thing, when you're making these comics, outside of this Kickstarter. You're not taking a bunch of money from these comics. You're doing a lot of you're paying your artists, you pay your inkers, and you're not making a lot of money, or if any, on your own, because you're just doing it to do it.
Yeah, I do it for free. So what I did was up until 2017, I sold Netflix bought Millarworld in 2017. Up until that point, the 15 guys that I did Millarworld with, they owned it 50-50 with me. So when we sold the company, they all got amazing paydays and everything. They owned half of it. At Netflix, it's different because Netflix it's not a publishing company, it's a film studio. So what I did, I took on a job at Netflix where I created franchises in-house. They were as television shows, as movies or whatever. And I said to them, look, do you mind if I do some comic books of this? And they said, well, whatever you want to do, if you want to, we don't care, And they said, just make it great artists. So what I did was, they're not co-owners because it starts as a franchise in-house. And what I do is I adapt something I create in-house into a comic book. So I don't own it either, but the artists are brought in and I give them all the money, so they get paid way more than they get at Marvel or DC. I don't take a penny, and give them all the cash.
Respect, mad respect for that. Good dude. All right, we're going to read some of these super chats here. Gollum's half-botched circumcision leftover. He just wanted to say hi.
I want that to be his real name. That would be amazing.
It is. That's on his birth certificate. It is. Eddie Brock, 9043 for $5.99 says, please retcon Bendis's awful Civil War 2 by giving us a proper sequel. Was there an original plan for you to continue Civil War after the original event?
No, I remember reading an interview with Frank Miller when I was a kid where he says, get in and out as quickly as possible. He says a good comic book creator should be an assassin and you never go back to the scene of the crime. And I think he's so right. Going back's always a mistake. I'm never writing Civil War 3 or whatever, you got to move on.
It should have never had a sequel. That's just my opinion. And I'll never forget Civil War because it was comics were making the comeback, right? We had the dip in the 90s. 9/11 happens. Comics get really serious in the 2000s, and I buy my store in 2003, and everything's just kind of selling okay, hushes around. But then the events start building out, and the culmination was Civil War. And listen, the ending was controversial in the comic shop. It was pretty split, but none of us knew at all until Brubaker put a little hint out that like the real end kind of came in another comic. It came in Captain America 25.
Yeah.
And I had no clue it was coming. So I'm rolling to work one day, and there's first time ever for my store. There's a line outside the door. I'm like,
yeah,
what? And they're like, didn't you watch CNN? I don't watch CNN. Sorry. It made the news that Captain America had died. I'm like, well, shit, I only ordered 25 copies. What the fuck? So thanks to a couple of James Sim from Isotope, I'll forever be grateful, in San Francisco. They helped me out with some copies. And, but yeah, that was a crazy time. It was a fun time. I like Civil War. I liked what built up to Civil War, did a lot of crazy shit in that I could not believe, including revealing Spider-Man's identity.
It was
controversial.
I think you just get lucky sometimes in the year you were born, right? And I was just born at an age where I was 30 and just coming of age as a writer as the Marvel thing was happening. So my entire Marvel experience was just on that Marvel boom time, from 2000 until 2009-ish. So it was amazing. It was just a total period of growth coming out of a really bad period. Marvel was almost in bankruptcy. But if I'd been born 10 years earlier or 10 years later, I'd have missed that entirely. But we had such creative freedom. We could do anything we wanted. But by the time Disney are coming in by 2009, I was like, okay, this is time to get out of here. It's like when you see all the Mickeys marching down the street with the machine guns and all that, it's like, yeah, it's time to go. Time to get out.
Did you know that was? That's another thing I had no idea was coming. It was a shock.
No, nobody knew. I remember getting an email from Joe Quesada in that morning, and it was kind of like the JFK assassination or something like that. I was just like, what? And Joe is such a great guy. I mean, I love Joe, right? And he fired an email out to a bunch of us, and he said, great news, guys, we've been bought by Disney. And I was like, this feels like a hostage situation.
Yeah.
This is not good news. I'm out of here.
No, I mean, across the board, asking my customers and my employees at the time, we all said, oh, well, we'll get some good movies, but the comics will suffer. And that's what's happened, unfortunately.
I think what will happen in time, though, because remember DC got bought in 1968, and then DC was kind of bland for a long time. But then the 80s happened with DC, so they almost have to, the Eye of Sauron has to move on from the company, So I think Marvel's losing heat fast. It's going to sort of disappear a bit over the next couple of years. And then I think the comics will be ignored enough that they can be a bit more radical again, once Disney isn't watching.
Yeah, Warner Brothers was a different beast because they did, especially in the 80s, they let DC do their thing. And they were not, they never knew what to do movie-wise or how to adapt it, but they let DC Comics do their thing. And, and then later on, there was Bob Wayne out there who was a former retailer, and he had a great, DC had a better relationship with retailers than Marvel ever did pre or post Disney, ever.
Even back in the day. Yeah.
Even back in the day, DC was much nicer to retailers. They were willing to listen to them and work with them, and Marvel was always aloof, always. But DC made it worse. I thought, well, shit, it couldn't be any worse. And it was. So, Infamous for $13.99 said recent Blu-ray pickups: The Warriors, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That's good. Fantasia and Fantasia 2000, Scarface 1932, Deep Red, and Peeping Tom. Long live physical media. I agree. And sometimes you just got to get it on DVD because you have no other choice. If you want South Park, better get those Blu-rays quick.
Speaking of the Warriors, one of the guys working on the Psychic Sam movie, I was doing a Zoom call with him the other day, and I saw the Warriors behind him in his kitchen, right? And it was his wedding guest list, and he had all the tables broken down by the gangs and the Warriors. Right? And he said to me, he says, my wife and I are really into the Warriors, right? And we did this wedding, and I was like, what's the chances of two people being so into the Warriors? I said, has your wife ever seen the Warriors? And he went, no, she hasn't.
I was going to say, that's astronomical. I saw, I didn't see the full version. I saw the TV edit version when I was very young. Nice. An average worm for $9.99. Thanks for all the entertainment over the years, Mr. Miller. Do you have a favorite story you've written? I think Superman is your favorite DC hero, ? But who is your favorite Marvel hero?
Oh, there's a lot of good ones at Marvel, I'm looking at my lunch boxes up here. It's hard. I love the Fantastic Four. I love Spider-Man. I think the only character that I would, if somebody says to me, you have to write a Marvel thing tomorrow, I think it'd be Captain America, actually. I really like Cap, and I think he's so easy to write. It's such an interesting character. It's a cool one. Iron Man, what's crazy with Iron Man is everybody loves Iron Man, but those comics never quite blew up the way they should have when there was $1 billion movie coming out every couple of years with Iron Man in it. So Iron Man would be fun to write as well. Tony's such a brilliant character, isn't he?
Yeah, it's amazing. I've always thought Iron Man was underused prior to the movies. I'm like, this is Batman. And then for toys, you can make a gazillion different Iron Man things, and they eventually did it. And you're right. Yeah. When the movie came out, there was a pop a little bit because Warren Ellis was around. But yeah, they never did that with any of the comics. And a lot of times guys were dead or girls were characters were dead when their movie was Thor famously was dead. So, some
weird choices.
Some weird choices, we'll just say. Best name I could... Oh, go on.
The DC seem to be working hand in hand a little bit with James Gunn, DC Publishing. And they seem to be capitalizing on Superman. So I'd like to see more of that. Treat the movies like a big advert for the comic books.
I love that you said Captain America's easy to write because I heard he was difficult to write. I heard he's super difficult to write because he's such a golden boy and a patriot and jingoism and all that other bullshit. But it's nice to hear somebody go, no, he's easy to write.
No, do you know what's funny? I grew up loving America, even though I was a million miles away in the west of Scotland, this rainy part of Scotland. I used to have an American flag in my my bedroom, as a kid. And I just loved the idea of America, right? So, as a kid, it's kind of where the superheroes live. It's where there's cool cars and beautiful girls and all this kind of thing. Big buildings, It just seemed exciting to me, So I think around the world, it's funny, some people see America as, a hostile thing, but growing up where I grew up, Americana was actually a really big deal. It's a very nice thing to sell.
Cheers. It's mostly great over here.
Yeah, like Superman lives there.
Maybe avoid a few cities, but like it's mostly great.
Well, do you know, I was in America a few weeks ago and I was amazed how great it's looking. Like I was in New York and everybody said to me, New York's a cesspit now. You'll be stabbed to death the minute you get off the plane and everything, And we were actually really worried because we had the kids with us and everything. I think New York was looking amazing, like sometimes the internet just blows everything up, doesn't it? Yeah.
No, they cleaned up. Yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't been New York since 2019, but
right.
like San Francisco is a little safer because there's no people out. So, I mean, I was just watching a video of, I lived there for 18 years. So I just watched a video. Fisherman's Wharf is a ghost town.
You see it?
Yeah.
Wow. That was some of the most
Alioto's is gone. Like this famous restaurant that had been there for 100 years is gone.
What's happened? Is it working from home or
working from home? And the tech bubble bursting, COVID, politics, everything.
What about the Mitchell Brothers Theater? Is that still open?
I think the Mitchell Brothers Theater is. Oh, I don't know, Chris. I know what you're talking about, though. The Mitchell Brothers.
I thought you would.
So, funny story. So Mitchell Brothers Theater is a strip joint, Mark. But there's also Mitchell's Ice Cream, right? And I always get because it's like this homemade ice cream there, and I always got it mixed up. So I'm gonna take the kids to Mitchell Brothers. Pyro Wave for $10 says, "Hey y'all, Mark. Is it possible for you to come to Motor City Comic Con in November in Michigan? I'd love to meet you and shake your hand and get a comic signed."
Do you know? Yeah, maybe. Like I love going to cons. I've only been to about 6 cons in the last 20 years or something. It's crazy, but I think because I live so far away, it's really hard. Like if I was just an hour in a plane away, it'd be great. But I have to take a week off when I go to a con. But I do love it, and I love hanging out with comic guys. So maybe.
Silo full of Cool Ranch Doritos for $5 says, when you were writing Marvel's Ultimate Avengers, why were the issues so far between releases? Oh, the Ultimates.
The Ultimates, yeah. Well, that was the genius, Brian Hitch, and sometimes great work takes time, So like Brian's really sped up now. Actually, he's way faster than he was, but I think for him, there was probably a little bit of performance anxiety because the whole world was looking at his book. I mean, in terms of comic world, like he was the zeitgeist guy doing that stuff. So everybody was watching it. It was a reinvention of Marvel's most classic characters. And Brian was literally reinventing the wheel. Like he redesigned the costumes, gave it a cinematic look. And if you look back at that stuff, he didn't scrimp. Like every panel had the windows and the buildings, behind every character and everything. So he put a lot of work into it, and sometimes it took 3 months.
And just so you guys know, if you didn't know, the Ultimates was a paradigm shift, right? We had Ultimate Spider-Man, but the Ultimates, and yes, that there was months between issues, but when one came out, it filled my comic store, which was great, and everybody just read it right there. And by the way, a lot of the MCU uses a lot of the Ultimates, including Nick Fury. So yes, a lot of the basis of the MCU came from the Ultimates.
Did I ever tell you the Sam Jackson thing when I met him in real life?
No.
Oh, this is crazy, right? Because I had no idea that Sam Jackson was a comic fan, And Brian and I, we were doing the Ultimates and sort of recasting and everything, And why don't we make it look like Samuel L. Jackson, because he likes to use a photo model, And I was like, yeah, it's a great idea. He fits in with what I'm thinking. He's like a blaxploitation name, Nick Fury. It works really well, So like we did it thinking nobody will see this. And then about 24 hours later, Sam Jackson's lawyer phones up the Marvel office and said, "What are you doing using my client's likeness?" And they cut some kind of deal, right? And then years later, I never meet Sam Jackson, but years later on Kingsman, I left him a little note for when he arrived, and I said, "Hey, sorry about using your likeness," just a jokey little email about it. And he put a thing back to me saying, "Thanks for the 9-picture deal, motherfucker." You know,
that's great.
Did you ever hear from Eminem or Halle Berry about Wanted?
No, never did.
Never?
Although apparently Eminem reads comics as well, you know. So like, I mean, who doesn't read comics? All the cool guys read comics.
Of course. Best name I could think of for $10. Huge fan of your work, Mark. Old Man Logan is an all-time classic for me. Any tips for making your characters sound unique when they speak? Any books you recommend for aspiring comic creators?
Oh, interesting. Well, I would say make them all sound Scottish, and then they're going to sound completely different from everything else out there.
There you go.
And nobody will understand what they're saying. But the my tip, and I say this to everyone, and Tarantino said this. People said, "Did you go to film school?" And he said, "No, I just watched lots of great movies." And I think that's the best thing you can do. You learn from masters, don't learn from idiots, you know? So like go and check out, look at Jack Kirby, look at Mobius, look at Jim Steranko, look at Stan Lee, look at Frank Miller. You know, this is the best education you'll ever find. No guy who's writing a how-to book is as good as those guys. You know, go and read their comics and you'll learn how to do it.
Shit, the only reason I can read is because of Marvel Comics. I learned to read on those things. Garrick for $5 backed the comic book yesterday, got the signed regular edition and magazine version. Love magazine size comics. I do too. I do too.
Me too. I'm so excited about this, right? For anyone who doesn't know, one of the tiers in our Kickstarter is I wanted to do basically a thick black and white version of the book, but put it in a 70s style magazine format, like the old Marvel Comics or Warren magazines, you know. They were black and white inside, but a beautiful painted cover that made it look very adult, you know. So Gary and I were talking about this a couple of weeks back, but I'm more excited about this than any comic I've ever done in my life because I want that magazine size things. That's the comics we used to get in the UK. We used to have American comics repackaged in black and white format with a nice cover. So I kind of want things I've written in that format, if that doesn't sound too weird. I want everything I do going forward to have a version of this in Marvel magazine style.
I love it. I love it. Savage Sword of Conan is one of the greatest runs ever. The only reason I picked them up when I was a kid is sometimes there was like, not in the Marvel stuff, but well, sometimes there's boobs, you know, mostly heavy metal too. Bada bing, bada bang for €5 says, Mr. Millar, thanks for all your great work. Did you know Peter David?
I did one phone call with him one time because he was doing something at Marvel that slightly crossed over with me. And I did a conference call with him, so we never met face to face. But he was a really funny guy. He was actually a very witty guy. He was a good laugh. I remember really enjoying the call. But we didn't ever meet in real life because I live so far away. You know, remember I'm a foreigner. I'm a foreigner.
Yeah, you are. I mean, thanks for all the praise for America, but you're still a filthy foreigner. Hunter for $2. Hail, Mr. Millar. That's all I asked. Thank you, Hunter. Appreciate it. And I know my kid is out there watching, so what's up, Logan? He usually doesn't watch, but he's watching because of you. Yeah, so hail, Logan. Rat Poor for $2. When you gonna write for the Rippaverse, Mark?
Do you know, I think, again, it's, you know, when you do your own thing, I think I'd find it hard. If I was in my 20s, I think I'd be straight in there, you know, because it's an exciting thing that Eric's building. I've got Eric on my podcast in about 4 weeks' time. We recorded it a couple of weeks back. What a nice guy he is. I really like him. Really, really nice guy. And what he's built's incredible. I mean, who does their first ever comic and it makes $4 million on Kickstarter? I mean, what that guy's done, there should be university courses about this, whatever he's doing. Yeah, it's great.
Absolutely. And he's a kid. He'll hate to hear that, but he's still a kid. He's so young and all he's achieved.
Or something, isn't it?
Yeah. It's pretty impressive. Saints and Sinners, by the way. Go check out Saints and Sinners. Critical Drinker as Mahler.
It's a good lineup.
It's a good lineup. Drunk 3PO too. No one could eat 50 eggs for $5 says, yesterday the question was, who's the best TV villain? Easiest answer, Garth Knight, Michael Knight's evil twin. Hasselhoff with a goatee, pure evil. You know what? You're right. Argument's over. You're absolutely right. I forgot about that. We were trying to figure, somebody asked yesterday, like, who's the best TV villain? I think we all just kind of landed on Walter White, but it requires some thought because I feel like there's a better one out there that I'm missing.
Yeah, I feel there's a good one.
Wonder World Comics for $4.99. This is one of the best discussions. Loving every minute of it. Thanks for being here. I love it too. And thanks again for coming on, Mark. I appreciate you.
Listen, I love sitting talking comics. And like I say, the children have been off school all week with the school holidays. I'm enjoying no parental responsibilities. My wife's doing everything. It's perfect.
It's great when the wife does everything. We could just chill out, watch comics or talk comics. It's as the world should be. Now make me that sandwich. Mark, how are we going to say this last name, X-Ray Girl? I would like you to mispronounce it over me.
Skriziniars.
That's it. For $5. Speaking of Chuck Dixon, legend, by the way, he's been doing great work over at the Rippaverse. I agree. I think if you sent them a script, they'd find it very hard to turn it down. Probably, but they got Chuck Dixon. Dixon. Yeah.
Chuck's the John Milius of comics. That's what I like.
That's a great description. That is a great description. Shlomi Leaner for $20 says, "Hey, Mark, I'm a big fan. I love your Daredevil comic run. Some of my favorite comics. What are your thoughts on the TV show you had been involved in? What are your thoughts on the TV show?"
It's a run-on sentence. I hadn't edited yet.
Oh, it's okay. I can't read even a proper sentence. What are your thoughts on the TV show, the Daredevil TV show? Have you been involved in any way, or your thoughts on Born Again? He wasn't involved because that was Disney.
I'm thinking of Frank Miller, actually. I think it's Frank Miller.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I'll take that as a massive win because Frank's my all-time favorite. So I'm going to pretend I'm Frank Miller for the rest of the day.
You can see my thoughts on the Daredevil show.
I
started out really good, and then
the Netflix version was amazing.
Amazing.
I think the Netflix version is maybe the best Marvel thing we've seen.
I agree.
I think it's phenomenal. Season 1 and season 3. Season 2 was weak, but season 1 and season 3.
I love season 2.
Really?
I do. Yeah. I do.
Too many long speeches. There's a lot of long speeches.
It was. But the hand.
But I checked out for I haven't even tried it. Is the new one worth checking out?
Nope. No. There's a couple of scenes between Daredevil and Punisher, which are amazing. But it really falls apart at the end. And I guess their excuse was they were hodgepodging a series that they had canceled, and I would have just scrapped the whole damn thing and started over. So we'll see with season 2, but my hopes are not high.
Cast. I mean, that cast's incredible.
Great cast, but they're missing.
Punisher amazing.
Yeah, if they just got back Stephen DeKnight or Drew Goddard, who were really the people who built the Netflix show, probably would have been better, but we'll see.
I do feel that Star Wars and Marvel and all these things just don't belong in television, though. I definitely think that's what's really hurt their brand. Like, to me, Star Wars is something that should be out every 2 or 3 years, and you pay money and you line up and you go and see it in the cinema, and it's the best night.
And it's an event.
It's an event. And I think Marvel's the same. I think there's something cheapening these brands about putting them in television, I think. And also overproduction. There's way too many of them as well.
Yeah. Sprinkled in is fine. I mean, ideally, you'd want something like The Penguin. The Penguin was phenomenal. And I wasn't expecting anything from that show, and it was great. And then Daredevil is great. And if you sprinkle it in, that's fine. But you're right. It still needs to be event. That being said, I think there's certain comic characters who are made for TV. I think a Batman TV show, I'd rather see a Batman TV show than a movie, because Batman is semi-pulp. He's a detective. He's got his full pantheon of villains, and you could just have him running around Gotham City. It wouldn't have to cost $1 gazillion. And done as a prestige series, I think it would be one of the most watched things on TV if done right.
Is there not some weird legal issue with Batman as a TV show that because of the 60s show, Batman can't appear? That's why you get Gotham and Pennyworth and all these things, because they actually aren't allowed to do Batman.
That was the case for many years. It was a Fox, Warner Brothers thing, but that has since been resolved. And since then, I've heard that they've just been saving him for movies.
Because there was a plan to do one back in 1990. Did you ever hear about the Batman TV show?
No, I didn't hear about this.
I was only 20 at the time. And sometimes you get into a party you're not supposed to be at. And I got into this DC party in London, and I sort of blagged my way in. And I was standing with a glass of wine with the adults, while they were all talking. And the DC execs were there. and they were talking about how they were talking about Batman had made so much money the year before. There was serious discussions about doing a Batman TV show using the Batmobile and the sets and all this thing. And they were going to cast a different Batman, and it was going to the seasons were going to appear between the movies. And they were talking about Michael Nader. Do you remember a guy called Michael Nader? He was an actor who played Dexter in Dynasty back in the day. And he was going to be Batman. And I don't know how advanced it was, whatever, but everybody at Warner Brothers who was there knew about it. And it was kind of the buzz at the party, which would have been amazing.
Oh, shit. I had to see an old picture. He's passed away now. Passed away in 2020. Yeah, he would. That's a good Batman.
Yeah.
I remember Dynasty. Yeah. I watched Dynasty all the time. That's crazy. That would I would have loved it, but
especially back then, because my Batmania around about 1989 was off the charts. Like we did Dark Knight and we did Tim Burton in year one. You know, it was like non-stop great Batman stuff, wasn't it? You know?
It was good times.
That was incredible, yeah, back then.
WG for $50 says, I only ask hard-hitting questions. So, Mr. Miller, what are your thoughts on pineapple pizza? No pressure, sir.
100% for it. I love it.
Yes.
Anything.
Yes.
Anything that insults. Anything that insults John Romita Jr.
Yeah.
I'm up for it.
You hear that, JR? Pineapple belongs on pizza. Thank you, WG.
I'd say it improves pizza by like 500%.
Yeah.
Yes.
You put some jalapenos,
yes.
Maybe some olives, little buffalo sauce, just so you know, like, how did Jeremy Clarkson describe it? So your butt will look like the Japanese flag when you're done. That's proper pineapple pizza. Okay. Brandon Powell for $5 says, always wanted to say this to you, Mark. I wanted to pre-read that. It says, fuck you. No. Thanks for your comic book, Huck. I really did enjoy the series.
Thank you very much. That's all you want. I can't believe it's been 10 years, but I'm doing the sequel right now. It's just started a couple of weeks back, so hopefully you enjoy that too.
You're busy, man. You're just cranking out comics like all the time.
I do it in my spare time, you know, like I love doing comics. And the thing is, it looks like I'm doing a lot, but I never have more than 2 a month. I do about 21 a year. I consistently do about 21 a year. But for some reason, it feels like I do more, you know, which is great.
That's a lot. I think that's a lot.
The standard rate 6 a month, you know.
Oof. Raylo Normie for $1.99. Mark, do you have any plans to work with Capullo again? Mark Capullo.
We actually don't, but I really like him. You know, I mean, I loved working with him, and he's a superstar. He is. You know, he's probably one of the top 3 biggest artists in comics right now. But such a great guy, and I loved the 6 issues I did with him. Great. His Batman run's awesome. He and Scott Snyder, great team. The Court of Owls stuff, some of the best Batman in the last 20 years.
Spawn stuff.
Yeah.
Thumbs up 1981 for $4.99. Doc Green was awesome, and Peter David's he says RIP run. It felt like a logical progression to the character. It did not translate to the screen at all. No. Because they should have adapted Peter David's stuff. His Hulk run is the best. AJ for $4.99. Thank you for your work, Mr. Miller. What do you think about Blue Marvel? I've been asked this question. the Blue Marvel. Yeah.
What's that?
The Blue Marvel, the character. Yeah.
Do you know, I've only
really
heard
obscure. So,
is it it's not a Marvel character?
It's a Marvel. The Blue Marvel is a Marvel character. Yeah, it's very obsure. Yeah,
and timeless comics. Yeah.
I have no thoughts on it because it's so obscure. I have zero.
I'm usually pretty good on this stuff as well, but that even got me.
Yeah. That one. You know, this is a random thought, but I was thinking about this. You know, if James Gunn, if he's going to get quirky, he needs to bring Snowflame into the DCU. Snowflame. The DC character Snowflame. Cocaine is my god, and I am the instrument of its will.
Is it from Hitman?
No, it's dude, it's a real, you can look it up. Snowflame is it's a real character. I used to talk about it a lot early on in my podcast days. But That's a perfect James Gunn character, a Snowflame, and the chat will know who I'm talking about. Are there any TV series Mark wished he could have been involved with after watching them? Asked Matthew Hammond for $4.99.
I think Seinfeld, like those guys made like $800 million, so like perfect. That'd be my top choice.
So dude, there's a great 4K box set out there right now, and I'm slowly getting through it. Freaking great show.
Oh, did you not watch it at the time? No,
I did. I even liked the last episode. I know everybody hates it, but they were fucking terrible people, and they deserved that end. And they kind of pay it off in Curb later on. But
what was so awful though is, because I didn't like the last one, because it was that 2-hour self-reflecting, it's a court case thing, and then he doubles down on it in Curb. He's like, I'm gonna, and he's my favorite guy ever. I love Curb; it's my favorite show of all time. But the fact he made the same mistake again and just doubled down.
Wow. Oh my God.
And that's the newer version. That's the newer stuff. This goes back. Like, this isn't like a new edgy, this goes back a ways. So Snowflame. Snowflame. Yes.
I feel I'm getting punked here. I've never heard
No. Snowflame's real.
So who was this, Garth Ennis or is it?
No, this goes, God, I'm going off memory here. Let's go see.
There's a ton of art of Snowflame. This is bizarre. I never heard of it. It's crazy.
Well, they killed him. So he first appeared in New Guardians #2 in 1988.
I remember that comic. That was
the
international thing. Yeah, I think Steve Englehart wrote that.
Yeah, good old Steve Englehart. Ah.
Do you know I interviewed him in my podcast? That's coming up in a couple of
weeks. Oh, you did? You did. I talked to him 20 years ago when he was in San Francisco. So,
one of the greatest Batman runs of all time.
Yes.
The greatest Doctor Strange runs. Also worked on Frogger for Atari.
Really? I did not know that.
He left comics to work at Atari, but around about 1979. Crazy.
Yeah. God,
follow the podcast.
I did I love Frogger.
So do I.
Yeah.
Do you know what? We were in the States, I told you a couple of weeks ago, and we found a retro video games arcade, right? And I took the children in there and I said, right, it was $0.25 to play a game, and I found Frogger. And the children had never seen me play Frogger before, right? I was on it for like an hour and 10 minutes with $0.25, right? I was
wow.
Right? And you know that scene in True Lies where the kid realizes the dad's a secret agent? The kids were looking at me like, we had no idea you had this power.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Harukami, he's got 2 of them here just one, sorry. For £5 What does Mark think of
SWTOR?
SWTOR?
It's the game.
What's that?
SWTOR.
What game?
Star Wars.
The Old Republic.
The Old Republic.
Oh, thank you.
Cinematic.
I never played it.
Okay, so what does Mark think of Star Wars: The Old Republic cinematic, and should we have had a film by now?
Do you know, I don't like the Star Wars extended universe. I'm going to be honest, right? To me,
I just heard Ryan's heartbreak.
There was two great families in the 70s in cinema. There was the Corleones and there was the Skywalkers. And a Godfather movie isn't a Godfather movie unless it's about the Corleones. And Star Wars isn't Star Wars unless there's a Skywalker in it. I'm sorry.
Yes.
But that's it.
I agree. I'm with you. 100%.
Yeah, nobody wants to see a Godfather universe movie.
A Luca Brasi movie, it's like...
Yeah.
a Godfather story. Oh, God, that'd be terrible. Don't give him any ideas. We just put it in the... Oh, God, we just put it in the ether.
What was Chief Brody doing before he went to Amity Island? That's what's happening now.
Well, Jaws prequel. We get to see Jaws' parents have sex and give birth to Jaws. Yeah. No one can eat 50 eggs for $5. Hail sobriety. I agree with you there, brother. Thank you, Mark, for the years of awesome art, great stories, and writing. What a difference it makes to have someone tell a compelling story. It does. And Mark does that consistently a lot. Handshot first for $5. Anyone else notice the start of yesterday's BBC X-Ray Girls pigtails covered the lettering on her shirt, so it just said tits.
Okay, I didn't wear pigtails for one.
Yeah, she doesn't wear
two, it's a shirt that said it hurt itself in its confusion, a Pokemon shirt.
Oh man, they've ruined that shirt.
Yeah. You had a little pareidolia there. You kind of saw what you wanted to see there, pal.
Wow.
Told on yourself. Joseph 91 Salazar for $4.99. Put the bunny back in the box. God damn right. Put the bunny back in the box. I think we're getting a 4K of Con Air soon, which we need. The world needs. And The Rock as well. Shlomi Leaner for $10. Sorry that I got mixed up. It's okay, buddy. You made the Flash comment with Grant Morrison, right? What are some DC comics that you made?
I did I did Swamp Thing for a couple of years at DC, which was actually a kind of dream. I was only 22 when I started doing it, but it was my favorite comic when I was like 13, 14 when Alan Moore was writing it. So getting to write that was really cool. And Superman Adventures. Now it's funny because Superman Adventures was always regarded like Batman Adventures as the kind of embarrassing little brother of the main books because it wasn't in Superman continuity. You know, it was a little animated comic, but it was actually amazing because it isolated me from everybody else and I could just do my own thing. So I could tell the Superman stories I wanted to write. So I had a great time doing that. I did that for about a year and a half. Nobody bought it. I mean, the sales on it were terrible.
I bought it.
I had a great time.
I bought it. I still have them. Yeah.
They're fun. They're fun stories.
Scott Christie Jones for €2 says, watched Dredd again, the best comic adaptation, the second Dredd movie, one of them. I mean, it's not, I mean, if you want to say accurate to comic, I just say it's a really fucking kick-ass movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's up there though with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and all that. Though I think, I mean, I like that movie, but I mean, there's been better comic book movies, I think.
Yeah, best adaptation, capturing the spirit. Doesn't have to be like word for word the story. Like Spider-Man 2, Superman, the Daredevil series, I think is good. I guess to me the best adaptation of all time is Sin City, which is damn near word for word, panel for panel.
I love Robert, and it's so respectful of the material.
God, it's so good.
A weird thing. I don't know how well known this is, but I was having a drink one time with Andrew McDonald, who produced the Dredd movie, and he told me the plan of Dredd, which was a very modest budget. The plan was to expand the world, you know, because he'd no money to make the first one, but if the first one made money, they could expand it a little bit. And the idea was for the second one to do the Cursed Earth saga, which, if you're a Judge Dredd fan, you know that's one of the greatest stories ever made. Pat Mills wrote it, you know. And then the third movie was going to be The Dark Judges with Judge Death and everything, which would have been amazing as well. But he had to make the money on the first one to be able to get the budget to do these. And sadly, it never worked out. But I was really rooting for that movie because I wanted to see those movies.
Yeah, and it's still caught in like financing hell because they used a bunch of there was not a bunch, but a couple of Indian financiers from India, some studios, and that's why the rights are just so gobbledygook right now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. Sunny Hard R for $2. Can you trade me a math Asian? Mine only makes faux. No, you can't have my math Asian.
Can I have the faux Asian?
Yeah, you can, but you can't have my math Asian. Nope. Not trading. Fan Y for 50 Swedish krona. It's 2025. How come we still don't have a Batman TV show, but have too many DC supervillains? I don't know. I even think. I mean, you could recast Robert Pattinson if you want, but if you want to use what they established in the Batman and turn it into a TV show, I think it would actually work better. But that's me. Jeremy Davis.
I want to see fun Batman. I want to see cool fun Batman, like Neil Adams Batman. I'd like to see that Batman.
We haven't seen that Batman.
I want to see that Batman. You know, like a Glenn Powell kind of guy. You know, somebody who's got a bit of a swagger, like Playboy Bruce Wayne, having a good time being Batman. I'd like to see that Batman.
Yeah, we've always seen. I mean, okay, the Burton one, I would guess, would be the closest to fun Batman. But Batman from the comics, we've never seen. We've never seen him with his full rogues gallery of villains, a fully operational Batcave with a Batmobile and a Robin and Alfred, all that. I'd like to see that.
A giant penny.
A giant penny. Yes, I want the giant penny.
The one for Batman, I think, is Batman the Animated Series. Just literally do Batman the Animated Series in live action. there has never been a more perfect version of Batman. And kids love it, adults love it. It's all there. It's just
all there.
Yeah.
Jeremy David for $2. How can a circumcision be only half botched? You'd have to ask Gollum. All right. You'd have to ask Gollum. Might have been a bad day. Might have been a discount. Not really sure. No one can eat 50 eggs for $5. Mark, when can we expect Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles expanded universe? There are so many Donatello crossover possibilities.
It's on my list.
There you go. Wonder World Comics for $4.99. This is one of the, I read that one already. There we go.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Bada bing, bada bang for €5. Ultimate X-Men. Could you also work as a Ultimate X-Men could also work as a template for the MCU X-Men. It moves Magneto's origin from World War II, which makes total sense nowadays. I promise you that's what they're going to do.
I must admit, I'm a little worried about X-Men getting rebooted, because I think we don't know how good we had it in those first 10 years, right? You had really amazing, you had Sam Raimi, Bryan Singer, Matthew Vaughn, like Ang Lee, even, I know Hulk wasn't great, but he's an Oscar-winning director, but like Christopher Nolan, you had some amazing directors, and now I just feel it's anybody that's coming in as a director. It's first-time directors. It's people who've done 3 episodes of a TV show and everything. I just don't know if it can go toe-to-toe with what James Mangold did or Bryan Singer did. And I think the casting was so amazing with Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, and everything. Will it be the same? I don't know. So I'm not saying it's going to suck, but I'm not super excited about it at the same time. I don't know. Just leave it alone for a while.
I totally agree. I think they should let everything sit for a while. As a fan of this stuff, it needs to be parked and vaulted. I don't have high hopes. I don't. But I'm sure they'll borrow a lot of Mark stuff. Hunter for $2. Walter White. He is great. You hear that knock? Great episode. Matthew Hammond for $2. How would Snowflame navigate the fentanyl crisis? Well, yeah, that's a good question because most of his coke could be cut with fentanyl. Probably dead. Probably dead.
Slow down.
Yeah, he'd slow down a little bit. Fentanyl's like his kryptonite. And this is the last one of the day. Sir Clive Calculator for £5 I've always thought a Quint prequel would work, seeing what happened when the Indianapolis sank.
Well, you guys, I'm sure, know this, but that was the plan for Jaws 2, that Steven Spielberg was going to make that for Jaws 2.
No.
Wow, I never
really?
I love all these obscure books on film, where you find out things that guys that nearly got cast in movies that nearly happened. But apparently that was being worked up for Jaws 2, and then he went off and did Close Encounters instead.
And I'm glad he did Close Encounters. I freaking love that movie.
Yeah.
Scott,
I also think that no movie could do justice to that speech, Robert Shaw's speech.
No.
So I think that was all we needed.
John Milius.
Yeah.
John Milius. And some booze, because he was drunk when he did that, and he did it great. Millar is always a great guest, says Scott McKenzie. Mark, did you Hitchhiker 42 asked Mark, did you know Peter David, which he said he just had a phone call with? Rest in peace. And did you ever meet him at a Comic-Con?
Sadly, no. I'm so rarely at American cons, but no, sadly not.
And now the last one is no one can eat 50 eggs for $5. Says there's nary an animal alive that can escape a greased Scotsman. There you go.
That's true. We're very seductive.
So let's put up the Kickstarter one more time. Extra go, please. Mark, thank you for coming on. Tell the fine folks anything you got coming up, or just more about Psychic Sam.
Just Psychic Sam. If you like stories with big guys with guns killing bad guys, it's I love that. Like, you know what you're getting. You're going in seeing somebody you like killing people you don't like, and I just feel you don't get enough of that anymore. Like I've kind of missed that. Like comics has been out to capture this other audience for so long. That we're forgetting that nitty gritty. The people who like Chuck Dixon, Frank Miller, 1980s comics, and everything. This is a tribute to all the stuff I grew up with, really. So I hope you enjoy it as much as Johnny and I love making it, with Klaus Janson and Bill Crabtree as well. I should add. That's
brilliant. That's brilliant. And I love that you're, venturing somewhat into like not just superhero stuff, because that's I think the thing comics has missed is we got so into superheroes that we need to kind of branch out and to get into pulpy stuff and fantasy and all that. And you've tried all that, and I just wish more would. So thanks, Mark. This looks awesome. Thanks.
I'm glad. I'll send you free copies. You'll get free ones.
I'll back it. I'm going to back it.
I
backed it.
Yeah. I'll give you money. But thank you though. I appreciate it. I will put my money where my mouth is. So, why is there somebody here? Sorry. Thank you again, Mark. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, X-Ray Girl. Thank you, chat. Great questions today. Thanks to everyone who left a super chat and donation out there. Thanks to everyone who just watched and participated. We appreciate you. This was fun. So this is nice. This is very nice. And Mark will be back with the Critical Drinker and Millar and maybe me on Open Bar on Thursday at 3 p. I think it's 3 or 4 Central. 3, because the time has changed back. So it's 3 p.m. Central.
I think I missed the first 10 minutes, believe it or not, because we're going into London tomorrow and we're taking the children to see the Clueless musical. And my train gets me back in. I'll be 10 minutes late, but I will be there.
We'll hold the fort for you. It'll be fun. There's a Clueless musical.
One of my friends done the music for it. A musician called Katie Tunstall. She's a Scottish singer. And she's done the music for the Clueless musical. It's supposed to be fantastic. So I'm off to that tomorrow.
Yeah, don't tell my wife. She's going to want to go see it like right now. It's one of her favorite all-time movies. That's a good movie, actually. So So thanks, everyone. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate Mark Millar coming on. Self-described legend right there. And I agree. So we'll catch you next time. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, guys.